Good morning. Happy Saturday. I have dealt many times with the duty to protect. I have 3 videos on it. This is going to be 4. The first video is like 4 years old, then 3 years old. And I think this one was about 2 years old. And now with the most recent shooting at Uvalde, the question has been posed again, or the statement, I guess I should say, has been stated again that police have no duty to protect. And they always put a period at the end of protect as if there has been some universal holding that the police will never ever be allowed to be sued for damages and be found liable for damages in any state at any time for any reason for failing to protect somebody. And I've gone into it multiple times for Castle Rock and DeShaney, but both of these, just to make a long story short, deal with the 14th Amendment. Do you have a right to sue the police under the 14th Amendment? Under the 14th Amendment for a violation of your 14th Amendment rights, either substantive due process rights or property rights. Do you have a right to sue them for a violation of the 14th Amendment? No. No, you do not. There is no duty to protect under the 14th Amendment for failing to enforce your property rights if you have a restraining order, or for substantive due process rights otherwise. That's what DeShaney and Castle Rock are all about. Again, there's a playlist. There's the duty to protect, a tort primer, no constitutional. See how that's bolded there? No constitutional duty to protect. And do cops really have no duty to protect? So there's already 3 videos on it. You can watch any one of those 3. I'm sure I go over it ad nauseum. They're all about 15 to 20 minutes long, etc. Anyway, I was surprised to hear that there was a new Supreme Court case from 2013. I had 2 people DM me about Lozito versus the city of New York. And I was like, wow, I missed a Supreme Court case from 2013 that dealt with the duty to protect. And that would surprise me. Anyway, it is a Supreme Court of the state of New York decision. And so it is not applicable to Texas. It's not a Supreme Court of the United States decision. And in addition, the Supreme Court of the United States is a superior court. The New York Supreme Court is the court of general jurisdiction. It's a trial court. It's not an appellate court. The next step up is the appellate division of the Supreme Court. That's where they take appeals. That has original jurisdiction for appeals from the Superior Court. And then the Court of Appeals is New York's version of California Supreme Court, or Texas Supreme Court, or Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, which is Texas's Supreme Court for criminal matters. Why they did that, I don't know. Texas is Texas. So anyway, this is not applicable to Uvalde, but just for grins and giggles, let's take a look at the way New York handles it. Now, New York says, well, at least this trial court's understanding of New York law, I should say, is that it's well settled that absent a special relationship, discretionary governmental functions such as the provision of police protection are immune from tort liability. What happened in Lozito is that he was on the subway. He was attacked by a fugitive from justice. He got stabbed in the head. It was all pretty gory and disgusting, and the police did nothing to stop it. They were there, but they didn't stop it. So anyway, so he sued the police, and the trial court said that absent a special relationship, discretionary governmental functions, such as the provision of police protection, are immune from tort liability. But you see that it's absent a special relationship. So if there is a special relationship, that means that the government is not immune from tort liability. Okay? So, and you also notice that this is entirely case law. So this is common law. They were suing under some common law theory. There's apparently no statutory provision for being able to sue the police in New York. Don't know why. Don't know if that's really the case, but I'm just going to say, okay, and move along. But we're going to look at this special relationship. Now, if there is a special relationship, apparently you can sue the government for doing discretionary functions, and you can recover for it. So what are the elements? The elements of this special relationship are, number 1, an assumption by the municipality through promises or actions of an affirmative duty to act on behalf of the party who was injured. Well, the police stopped the parents from going in under the theory that the police were going to handle the school shooter. Now, they they didn't, at least not for over an hour. And I think it was a Border Patrol agent who ended up taking out the shooter or arresting the shooter or what have you. I'm not really familiar with it because I don't like to get upset over reading bullshit like that where the police completely F themselves and F their constituents and F the police. Anyway, so that's number one. I think we would be able to establish that. Number two is knowledge on the part of the municipality's agents that inaction could lead to harm. The police in Uvalde knew that it actually was leading to harm. They knew that there was an active school shooter actively shooting kids. They had 911 calls, etc., from the kids. I mean, they knew that not only could it, but it was leading to harm. Number three, some form of direct contact between the municipality's agents and the injured party. Well, the municipality's agents were arresting parents who were trying to go in and stop the school shooters and save their kids. I think that would be direct contact, don't you? And number four, the party's justifiable reliance on the municipality's affirmative undertaking. Well, the parents were arrested. The parents who were trying to act to save their children. And so they literally were forced to rely on the police. So in this particular case, assuming that I'm not licensed to practice law in New York. So I just want to make that very clear. I'm not saying that there would be a cause of action that you could bring against the police and recover, but it sounds like, at least from this basic understanding of what the elements of special relationship are, that there would be a special relationship between the police and the children and or the police and the parents, and that then the government in New York may not be immune from tort liability. So this one doesn't say exactly everything you think it says, because it does not hold that there's no duty to protect, period. It says absent a special relationship, discretionary governmental functions such as police protection are immune from tort liability. So there's two qualifiers there. There's discretionary governmental functions as a qualifier, i.e. acting or not acting is going to be a discretionary governmental function. That was in Castle Rock. The deep-rooted nature of law enforcement discretion, even in the presence of seemingly mandatory legislative commands, such as illustrated by Chicago v. Morales, which involved an ordinance that said a police officer shall order persons to disperse in certain circumstances. This court rejected out of hand the possibility that the mandatory language of the ordinance afforded the police no discretion. It is, the court proclaims, simply common sense that all police officers must use some discretion in deciding when and where to enforce city ordinances. So there you go. But so it is a discretionary governmental function if and when they're going to arrest somebody. And so in that situation, absent a special relationship. So there's two qualifiers there. So going to Texas, there is Dent versus City of Dallas. Dent was driving a car. He was killed because the police decided to chase a fugitive from justice who rammed into Dent, ran a red light and hit Dent, killing Dent. So his family sued. And the police said that, the court held, this is Dent versus City of Dallas, the court held that you had to have a claim under the Texas Torts Act, and that the officer's discretionary actions entitled the officer to qualified immunity. In Texas, you could sue in state court for 42 U.S.C. 1983 lawsuit. You could bring that federal cause of action in state court in Texas, just like you can in California. Probably some other states too, maybe all, I don't know. But at least according to Texas, and I think there was a Supreme Court case that held the same thing, but discretionary actions do entitle the officers to qualified immunity under 1983, specifically under 1983 actions. So it may not apply. The state can always take that away. Anyway, so State versus Terrell is basically the same thing, and I'm not really going to go over it. But State versus Terrell is a Texas Supreme Court case, and it holds fairly similar things. It's older than Dent versus City of Dallas, but it also says you need the Tort Claims Act, and discretion is going to be a problem. So this is the Texas Tort Claims Act. Sovereigns are immune to suit. So the federal government, unless it gives you the right to sue it, you can't sue the federal government. And the federal government has tort claims acts that you can sue under. Lower governments, you can only sue if a higher government gives you the right to sue them, or if that government gives you the right to sue it. So the federal government can give you the right to sue a state, or the state can give you the right to sue the state, but one of those two has to give you the right. And so in Texas, the state has given you the right to sue the state and municipalities and governmental employees in their Tort Claims Act for specific kinds of things. And those specific kinds of things is the governmental unit in the state is liable for property damage, personal injury, and death proximately caused by the wrongful act or omission or the negligence of an employee acting within the scope of his employment if the property damage, personal injury, or death arises from the operation or use of a motor-driven vehicle or motor-driven equipment, and the employee would be personally liable to the claimant according to law. And so it's either this or personal injury. And no, it's not an or. And the personal injury or death so caused by the condition or tangible personal or real property if the governmental unit would, were a private person, be responsible, yada, yada. Interesting. So this appears just to be for the use of a motor-driven vehicle. A municipality is liable for other things. Okay, so anyway, so the problem comes into another problem, I guess, that you come into. Again, I'm not a Texas attorney. I'm not licensed to practice laws in Texas. Is that the chapter does not apply to a claim arising in connection with the assessment or collection of taxes. That's not a big deal. But from the action of an employee while responding to an emergency call, that could be a big deal. Although there is an exclusion if the action is not taken with conscious indifference or reckless disregard for the safety of others. But it also does not apply to a claim arising from the failure to provide or the method of providing police or fire protection. It also does not apply to a claim based on the failure of a governmental unit to perform an act the unit is not required by law to perform, or a governmental unit's decision not to perform an act, or on its failure to make a decision on the performance or non-performance of an act if the law leaves the performance or non-performance of the act to the discretion of the governmental unit. Now, we already determined from Castle Rock that arresting somebody is a discretionary action, and that's a U.S. Supreme Court case. So I'm pretty sure that it's going to apply here. All of this is a matter of state law, so who knows? Anyway, I don't believe that the cops in the Uvalde incident are liable, i.e. that they had a legally cognizable duty that they could be sued under for monetary damages. I do think, however, they did have a duty to protect those kids from their employment. Not that you could sue them over it, but I think they should definitely be fired. I think every officer who responded, who did not go in, should be fired. Who did not go in immediately, I should say, should be fired. I think the supervisors and chiefs and everything like that, all the way up the chain of command who were responsible for those decisions, should be fired. And they should never, ever, ever be allowed to be law enforcement ever again under any circumstances. Anyway, so there you go. There's your no duty to protect for the Uvalde incident. And I have now dealt with the Lozito versus New York. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.